I apologize to all of you that were just watching me on with Carter Bryant because I do kind of got to start my own show about this because it's massive news coming out of the SEC. Greg Sankey and the SEC announced today that the Southeastern Conference is moving to 9 conference games inside of the league. For over the last year or so, when this started becoming a little bit more of a reality that this was going to happen, I personally have been very vocal. The reason I've been very vocal about this is because, number one, I love LSU. Number two, I cover the sport on a yearly basis about what is best for this league. Not only what's best for this league, but what's best for the team that I cover. I don't think people relatively understand what is happening here. You see us going to 9 conference games, and some fans say to themselves, all right, we got better games on the schedule. That is true. You got much better and tougher games on the schedule. And I am not necessarily a parent in reference to getting other teams and other games that will be really good for us. I'm not opposed to it. But I think everybody's seeing the big picture of what they're trying to do here. The number one thing that the SEC definitely is trying to do more than anything is make more money. It is the commissioner's job to make more money for the teams in his conference. It's literally his job. That is what he does. Today, he did that, but also could have vastly hurt teams inside his conference. Last year, teams like Alabama, that I know that you hate, Ole Miss, that I know that you hate, and South Carolina, where you're probably a little bit like meh against South Carolina, did not get into the playoff. Why? Because all 3 of those teams were 9-3. But when I look at what happened like a season ago, and I see, well, wait, South Carolina had a top 15 strength of schedule. Alabama had a top 10 strength of schedule. I look at other teams like Ole Miss and see that they were top 25 in scheduling. And I say to myself, well, wait a minute. One team's 10-2 and the other's 9-3, but the other team that's 9-3 and had another loss literally went through a tougher situation. Now, I know what you're going to say. Well, Blake, didn't they just make the playoff about strength of schedule and the strength of record and it mattering and it being a metric for getting in the playoff? Yeah, they did. But I also have seen the last 2 years, the College Football Playoff Committee, literally in the last week of the selection committee, changed their rules based off of what was happening. Let me give an example. In 2023, the entire season is about who is the most 4 deserving teams to get into the playoff. Not the best teams, most deserving. Then a kid named Jordan Travis went down. And Boo Kerrigan ran his happy ass out there, the selection committee chair, and said it's about getting the best 4 teams in. He had moved the metric. Last year, they moved the metric in a 12-team playoff, keeping SEC teams out. Well, they're 11-1. You can't penalize SMU for losing their conference championship game, even though South Carolina beat Clemson 2 weeks ago. Guys, you're adding a tougher game, which will make it tougher for you in non-national title years to get in the playoff. And I ask all of you, and I want you to say this inside the chat. What is your ultimate goal for LSU every single year? My goal, personally, is for them to make the playoff and be a national title contender. That's mine. But what is the reality of what expectations are for LSU? The expectations are that LSU should make the playoff every year or be damn near close to contention and be a national title contender. Tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm not. Because if I'm wrong, then, well, what are we doing? And I know, hypothetically speaking, I'm not wrong. Our goal meaning LSU, or I just should say LSU's goal is to get in the playoff and win a national title every year. And the reason why this is such a big deal is because when it comes down to it at the end, and you have a 10-2 Indiana team, or a 10-2 Ohio State team, or a 10-2 Penn State team, and I have a 9-3 South Carolina, who, by the way, and I love LSU with all my heart, I don't think South Carolina should have been 9-3. Guys, quite honestly, I don't think that penalty should have been thrown when Garrett Nussmeier got hit last year. I think they should have been 10-2 and in the playoff. But that's neither here nor there. What is here and there is that I have a situation where I legitimately have to believe that they're going to put the other teams in that went through tougher things. Because no, they're not. They're not going to do that. But here's how they're going to get you. They're going to say, well, see, the Big Ten and the SEC had teams on the outside looking in, and we probably need to expand the college football playoff to 16 teams. It's what they're going to do. They got you. They got you. Last year was the SEC. Watch it happen to the Big Ten this year. Watch it happen to the Big Ten. And we're going to all sit here and say, well, it happened to the SEC last year. Now it's happening to you. The only thing we need to do, expand to 16 and hold it there. By the way, this week, the Big Ten suggested for there to be 2018 playoffs. You're devaluing the regular season when they expand. They will devalue the regular season, 9 conference games or not, if and when they expand, even with the 9-game conference schedule. Now, I'm about to give you a scenario. Greg Sankey came out today. Now, this can easily change. But Greg Sankey came out today and said that we're still going to flip the schedules, meaning the teams that you did not play last year, meaning this year, you're going to play next year. Well, teams that LSU don't play this year in the SEC, Texas, Georgia, Auburn, Mississippi State, Kentucky. Those are the 5 teams you don't play. What if one of your permanent rivals is Alabama? There could be a season where you go up against Texas, Georgia, and Alabama. And some of you are going to say, well, okay, let's go take it to them. But if you're 9-3 at the end of that, regardless of who you win and lose to, and you're on the outside looking in the playoffs, and you got a team like Indiana that's in there because of their fucking record, don't come bitching to me. Don't you dare. I am not scared to play those teams. But when I look at the Big Ten, when I look at the ACC, when I look at the Big 12, and you're doing automatic qualifiers, and those programs have automatic qualifiers to get in, guys, they're not going to leave. 3 Big Ten teams are always going to be in there. They're going to try their damnedest to get 2 ACC teams in there. And you got a freaking group of 5 team that's got to get in there. So if we've established our goal is to make the playoff and be a national title contender, I have to go through something that these other teams in these shitty-ass conferences don't have to go through. Now, LSU could easily go out there week 1, which, by the way, we're talking about Clemson tonight. They could easily go out there week 1 and lay an egg against Clemson and lose. Okay, sounds good. But what happens in a scenario where you have a team like last season when South Carolina goes into Clemson and beats Clemson on the field, and because of a stupid automatic qualifier, Clemson gets in? Because, guys, that could be you. You were technically the reason that they didn't get in. And you want to sit here and tell me that there's equality around the sport. Oh, great, we get more games at home. No, you don't. There's going to be seasons where you got 5 SEC road games. with the likes of Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, Texas A&M. Now, I don't know if you're going to get all of those 5 in a row. But by the way, you didn't play Tennessee this year either. So you got to add Tennessee into the record. So there could be a world if Alabama is a permanent opponent for you. Next year you face Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Auburn. And then your 3 permanent opponents, which I think is going to be Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. Probably should have did that the other way so my middle finger wasn't up. Now all of you have got to come into the chat and tell me that those things are equal. They're not equal. They're not. There's no way that you can look at that and be logical in your mind and tell me that you think that that's even. Here's how I know that you can't. Now, I am going to bring this tweet up that I tweeted from last season. In a down year from the SEC. I thought I bookmarked it, and sure as hell I didn't. Brandon, I need you to find the strength of schedule tweet for me, if you can. Yes, the strength of schedule. I think I got it right here. Hold on. You got it? Pull it up. All right. Last year, as an example, this was the strength of schedule metric across college football. I'm sorry for some of you that you can't see this. But let's look at the SEC teams, why don't we, that made the playoff a season ago and their strength of schedule. Georgia, the SEC champion, was number 1. Tennessee was at 21. Alabama, who didn't make it in, was 11th. South Carolina was 12. A&M, who didn't make it in but was in contention there in the last week. If they beat Texas, they go to the SEC championship game. They were at 23rd. Guys, look at these other teams that made the playoff. Clemson, 57. Indiana, 51. SMU, 77. Miami, 59. Notre Dame, 78. Penn State, 32. The only thing that you could talk about with the SEC was Texas last year, whose strength of schedule was 38. And by the way, they didn't play they did not beat any top 25 teams, and they still had a top 40 schedule. Then I look at a team like Oregon, who is at 52. Do you get my gist here? They don't go through what you go through. There's going to be scenarios and situations now where when there comes out strength of schedule, even though it is right now, guys, you might have 8 to 9 of the top 10 toughest schedules in the country in the SEC. Last year, it was 7. It was 7. You should know you were one of them. If our goal is to get to the playoff, and if our goal is to get into national title contention, and the Big Ten teams do not have to go through the gauntlet that I got to go through, you're going to have to tell me how that's even. You're going to have to tell me how it's even. It's not. I don't have a problem with a coach and an AD and Brian Kelly and Scott Woodward not wanting to back down and going for 9. If you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. I get all of that. But man, sure, it's great for more big games. It's great for this channel. It's great for this show. Because instead of having a game where we got to do a post game with Nichols versus LSU, we get Texas versus LSU. It's great for me. I'm going to love it. We're going to make a shitload of money. FanDuel is going to be so excited that they went to 9 conference games. Super excited. So am I from a financial standpoint. I just don't see the equality. I don't. Well, Blake, the SEC hasn't won the last 2 national titles. They haven't had to go through this gauntlet either. And if they want to do that, the last time we technically expanded the conference is the last time that the SEC didn't win at least one in a 2-year window. And what happens if they win one this year? Because I think that they are. I think that they are. Guys, I think we're being led in the wrong direction. I do. I legitimately do. I see people in here saying, I don't count Michigan's title. You don't have to. They cheated. They cheated. So you get to a situation, you get to a place where I look at this situation and say, this is the stupidest thing the SEC could have done. The dumbest. By the way, you don't have an AQ model right now. And I swear to God, if they go to this 4-4-2-2-1 plus 1 model, I'm going to lose my godforsaken mind. They're basically going to do, if they do an AQ model, we've broken this down before, they're going to do playing games during the championship weekend. Can you imagine that? Hey, I got to go through 10 SEC teams to make it to a playoff when, if I'm in the Big Ten, 2/3 of my schedule is against teams that can't go above 500. Guys, Indiana, as an example, faced two teams above 500. I'm going to call for people to be resigned if we go to an AQ model. It's the dumbest thing we can do. The outright dumbest thing we can do. Guys, what if there's 5 teams in the SEC that deserve to be in? What if that happens? You do realize now with a 9-game conference schedule, there are going to be teams that face off potentially 8 to 9 ranked opponents in the season when they play them. LSU actually did this in 2011 as well. There are going to be teams like in 2007, LSU lost 2 games. If it wasn't for the grace of God, they wouldn't have gotten in. Imagine keeping that team out. Well, they wouldn't in this scenario, but you get my gist. Oh, I think it's a horrible day for the league. Horrible day. I know a lot of you don't feel the same. I know that you don't. But, I mean, it gets to a place where, man, if you go to an AQ model, you have play-in games. Guys, play-in games are playoff games. So then essentially you're going to a 2018 playoff. Is essentially what you're doing. I mean, everybody's just trying to grab money. They're trying to grab money. I mean, let the best man win. I get it. But, guys, you're going to see scenarios where teams in the SEC deserve to get in that won't get in now. They won't get in. Could you imagine? Think about this. The Florida Gators face off this season against 9 at the current ranked opponents. 9 of the 12. Or excuse me, 8 of the 12. 8 of the 12. Let's say that they hypothetically, and here's a hypothetical, that they go 8-4, 9-3. Hypothetical. Let's just say 9-3. Let's say hypothetically they go 9-3. Now what? Now what? Well, Blake, it's the way that they lose. No. When teams like Indiana get to cancel games out of conference, out of conference Power 4 games, no. No. Nebraska, no. Oh, and by the way, Greg Sankey is making you play an out-of-conference Power 4 opponent every year. So you have the 9, now you got 10. You still got the same 2 Rena wins. Newsflash, by the way, you had that last year if you're LSU. And you still went through a gauntlet more than what teams like Indiana had to go through. Last but not least, what does this do for a team like Notre Dame? Now, Notre Dame has, to their credit, they got Miami, they have Texas A&M, they have Arkansas on their schedule this year. They have USC. I guess to them that's a gauntlet. I would rather go through that schedule. I would rather go through Notre Dame's schedule than the schedule that we have. I'd rather go through that schedule than what we have next year. Think about that. Because what's the penalty for them? I don't know, man. I don't know. I can't get past how this makes it easier, or not easier. I don't know how it makes things better. Like, hey, we already go through a gauntlet. Why in the hell would I go through that? Man. I just don't get it. All right, we got a lot of super chats in here. First and foremost, we have some new members. Dane Bergeron is a new member, and Not Flight is a new member. All right, so that's what this starts. So now that we have enough members on the YouTube channel, we're going to start publishing other content that's not on these live shows. Thank you guys so much for becoming members on YouTube. YouTube is being great to us and partnered with us on that. We're going to be starting releasing members-only content on YouTube. So get over there, sub, do whatever you got to do. But already what we're doing is all the content that gets published outside of live shows gets shown an hour to 30 minutes before anybody else on YouTube. So we'll be doing some extra content with that. Thank you, Not Flight, and thank you, Dane, for becoming members on the YouTube channel. Dane Bergeron with a $5 super chat says Blake for SEC commissioner. They couldn't pay me enough, because the first thing I would do would be cancel the 9th conference game if I got in there. So maybe I should be the commissioner. I don't think Greg Sankey's done great. Outside of Texas and Oklahoma coming into the league, name something he's done great. Oh, Blake, he's giving him more money. I mean, guys, you're selling the SEC. How hard is that? It's not that hard at all. No Depression with a $2 super chat says the Big Ten shoved the SEC in a locker, shaking my head. So let's talk about that. I didn't even bring that up. The Big Ten has been bitching and moaning. They've been moaning that the SEC does not have 9 conference games. Okay? In that, it looks like you caved. It looks like you caved. Yeah, you kind of got shoved in a locker. I mean, if we're just being honest. Now, the counteract to that, there is a plus to this. The only plus would be is if, let's just say hypothetically speaking, if hypothetically speaking this year, which, guys, you only have a couple of at-large bids. If this year the strength of schedule and strength of record metrics do play out the way they're intended to play out, you may get more SEC teams in, then you would shove it in there. But what you're trying to convince me of at the current moment is that people that have literally changed their metrics the last week of the selection committee to get the teams in that they want, that they're not going to screw you over again. Get out of my face with that. By the way, the selection committee chair is not an SEC guy. He's not an SEC guy. All right. Jerry says, Blake, what are your thoughts on the 9-game conference schedule? Pretty much we answered that. How does this impact recruiting and revenue sharing? So really not anything on the revenue sharing part. You're just getting paid. They're getting paid more money. You get Brandon Marcello of CBS reported that they're going to be getting about $5 million per that extra game from TV revenue. So you just share the more money with the players. Terrence Curry with a $10 super chat says, how do you feel about the new quote-unquote enhanced metrics used by the College Football Selection Committee? And could the new 9-game conference schedule somehow, even if unlikely, benefit us in comparison to others? So, Terrence, we just brought that up. There is a scenario where that if they screw the Big Ten on the strength of schedule metrics, yes. I just don't see how that's going to happen. Example, they didn't do that this year, okay? Like, they didn't do it for SMU. Like, here's my thing. They literally had the strength of schedule and strength of record metrics in their faces last year when SMU had the 77th toughest schedule in the country. Boise State had the 100th, and they played Oregon, the Big Ten champion. That's how shitty teams that they played. I just don't think that they're going to. I don't think that they're going to screw the Big Ten. Not like that. Maybe for a team. Maybe. But if it's by the metric, like for an example, okay, let's just throw this example out there. The example that we're throwing out there, okay, if that is the ultimate thing that you look at the end of this, then SMU, Indiana. I mean, guys, those are the two teams that probably be left out. I mean, probably be the teams that get left out. Alabama gets in. Ole Miss gets in. Or Illinois gets in. Are they going to do that? I don't know if they screw over Indiana is my point. I just don't see a world where they screw them over. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. I don't know. Frank Castle with a $10 super chat says, Sankey is a hoe for this. I'm going to keep lobbying to have this change. The SEC is harder than everyone else, and you added another game to what? Make it more difficult for your 4 teams. No doubt. Attrition is a big deal here. Attrition, like, can you imagine Indiana's schedule where, like, they only play 2 teams above 500? Let's just say they played 3. Whoa, my God, they played 3. Even if they played 3, you see what I'm saying? It's not created equally. It just isn't. All right. Whew. My voice is going out a little. All right. Everyone do us a favor and hit the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Every show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Speaking of the SEC, is there a team in the SEC that you think is going to win the national title? Well, you can go over to FanDuel and bet responsibly while you do it. You got some extra income? Go sign up for FanDuel. Go and throw it on there if you want to gamble. You need to do it responsibly. Don't be doing it willy-nilly. Do it responsibly. If you have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Go to FanDuel.com/RG. But if you think one of those teams in the SEC is going to win it this year, if you think your own team and LSU is going to win it this year, go over to FanDuel and do it. All right. Everyone hit the like and share. Let me get to a quick break. When we come back, let's talk a little Clemson. Austinthomas met with the media today. We'll talk about that too. Stay with us.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man. He's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Red Stick Financial. They're your local residential mortgage broker located right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At Red Stick Financial, they find the bank that works for your particular set of needs to purchase the home of your dreams or refinance the current one. They truly are your partners in this process, and they pride themselves in helping individuals and families with one simple goal in mind, and that is to make home financing approachable, attainable, and stress-free. They are licensed in all Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. So from Amarillo to Meridian and everything in between, they have you covered. Red Stick Financial brings you creative, customized solutions, and they don't believe in the one-size-fits-all when it comes to loans. They even have special options for mobile and manufactured homes located in a flood zone and stated income financing for those of us who are self-employed borrowers. If you or someone you know is looking to buy a home, refinance an existing mortgage, or simply want to know what options are out there for your future, give Red Stick Financial a call today at 225-407-9250. That's 225-407-9250. Or check them out online at redstickfinancial.com. That's redstickfinancial.com. Before you purchase the home of your dreams or you go and do that refinance, you need to go local. Go Red Stick. Guys, let me tell you about our good friends over at Grand Slam Heating and Air, where your comfort is their top priority. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they promise to provide customers with high-quality HVAC service at an affordable price while ensuring the homeowner peace of mind. From their office to your home, they guarantee the best hassle-free experience around. Efficiency and comfort is their game. Let them make your home Grand Slam today. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they're offering their annual maintenance plan starting off at $18.75 a month and also doing those $99 tune-up promotions. They provide free estimates for system and ductwork replacement, as well as offering financing to get the job done with no money up front. From Baton Rouge to Hammond to Covington, they're all around. So what you need to do today, give them a call at 225-380-9065. That's 225-380-9065. Or go over to their website, getgrandslamair.com. That's getgrandslamair.com, where your comfort is their top priority.
We're back.
I just heard somebody. Actually, I didn't hear him. Somebody just sent me that they think that we should go to a 64-team playoff in football. 64. 64. I'm texting him back. People have lost their godforsaken minds. The regular season gets devalued. It gets devalued. Regular season devalued at that point. Guys, what are we doing? I really feel, and I mean this, I really feel like we're in the fucking Matrix. Like, I cannot believe that there are people out there that are that believe something like that. It blows my mind that there are actually people out there that believe something so stupid. Well, this is what's one of them, by the way. Basketball does it. Florida Gulf Coast made a Final Four a decade ago. Gonzaga makes constant Final Fours. Like, this is not football. I mean, this is not basketball. The thing that has always made college football unique is its regular season. That's why people fall in love with it. Because if you lose on a Saturday, sometimes it was a death nail. Now, if you lose two of them, it really used to be a death nail. Now, if you lose three of them, it really, really is. But every time you do that, it's a death. It changes the sport. Keeps teams in longer. Anybody that believes that a 64-team playoff is the way to go should legitimately have every one of their football takes taken away from them because they don't deserve to have them. Actually, let me back up. I'm wrong in that. Everyone deserves in this country to have their opinion. It shouldn't be valued. It shouldn't be valued. I'm done texting that guy. Let's go to Clemson. So I told you last Thursday that today we were going to be taking a look at the University of Clemson. I wanted to get out a little bit more than a week ahead of this so we can really start breaking them down. We're going to do this twice. We're going to do this today. We're going to do it again next Wednesday. Well, we're going to do it every day, really, next week when we get in game week. I wanted to take a look at this matchup, LSU versus Clemson, in more of a keys to victory part 1, because we'll do a keys to victory part 2 next Thursday. When I look at LSU versus Clemson, there are a couple of things and questions that I have going into this game. Let's look at Clemson before we start looking at LSU, because we have done a lot of stuff and talked a lot about who this LSU team is. There are a couple of questions going in this game for LSU that we got to get answered early. The first and probably the biggest conversation that we've had in reference to going into this game all off season is, hey, can this offensive line for LSU keep up and handle this Clemson defensive line? They got Will Helt that you try to recruit now at edge. They have Peter Woods. They have Orange. They have TJ Parker. They have Sammy Brown that can come down and play edge for him, but he's going to be in a backer. He's going to be in that front seven. And in that front seven, too, is Wade Woodaz, who they last year used in some specialized stuff as well. But that D-line versus your O-line, or that front seven versus your offensive line, can it hold up? There have been a couple of schools of thought in this. The couple of schools of thought have been, well, listen, we saw last year what happened to Clemson in the games that they lost. Even though they had Peter Woods, even though they had TJ Parker, even though they had Sammy Brown, even though they had Wade Woodaz, they were 85th in the country in rushing defense. Now, LSU wasn't good, and when we talk about this in just a moment, they weren't good at running the football season ago. It's also a big question mark. But the question that I do have when I look into this game, and I look forward into this game, well, you might have a lot of talent, but schematically, Brandon, you still got me? Okay. Do you see the lights flicker? Yeah, we're going through some bad weather. Anyway, when I look into this game, can LSU find a way to run a football on a team that last year in some games honestly got pushed around? Now, there will be Clemson fans that come into this clip video or this live show and say, we got a new defensive coordinator in Tom Allen. That you do. And that's the other flip side of this coin. Everybody agrees or everybody believes. Now, let me not say agrees. A lot of people believe that Clemson has one of the best front sevens in the country, or without a doubt, with TJ Parker, Peter Woods, Will Helt, Woodaz, Sammy Brown. But my question becomes, how did teams like Texas, who did not run the football effectively last year against ranked opponents, how did they do it? How did Louisville do it with Isaac Brown, who's very electric? How did Georgia, who did not run the football worth a damn all season, how did they find a way in the second half to be able to run the ball against Clemson? Well, you can turn on the film and just see, hey, man, outside of some of those absolutely ridiculous plays by Lenore Sellers, Rocket Sanders had a lot of big runs. Jaden Blue had a lot of big runs. Wisner had a lot of big runs. Why? Well, quite honestly, their offensive line were able to get push and get them off the ball. This LSU offensive line is going to show in more ways than one clearly if they're ready? Can Tom Allen change a lot in that front seven for Clemson? But the question is, was it scheme or was it personnel for Clemson a season ago? It's always the interesting conversation. Always being the interesting conversation of, guys, if you're running a basic inside dive, there's not a lot of scheme built into that. It's a lot of guys getting beat up front. Now, if you ask me, my thought is that they have a shitload of talent up front. And this might be one of, if not the, in the regular season, biggest challenge that you face off against in the front seven from a talent perspective. TJ Parker still had 20 tackles for loss a season ago. He still had double-digit sacks. You're still starting a relatively new left tackle. You're starting a brand new right tackle. Do they move TJ Parker over to the side of Weston Davis or Carius Kern, who are going to be the starters at right tackle? Do they throw TJ Parker and say, hey, TJ, for this game, I'm moving you on a guy that's never started or a true freshman? This game is won or lost without a shadow of a doubt with what your offensive line does. Now, you can't have big plays hit on you defensively. You can't have turnovers offensively. There are obviously other things that you must do. But I look at this situation and say, if it's personnel, then LSU might be able to have success. If it's scheme and Tom Allen is able to come in there and do a lot of really good things for Clemson, well, then we're going to have our answer. But it's either going to be one or the other. Is this offensive line for LSU up for the challenge that they can make creases for guys like Caden Durham? Now, there are a lot of players that will have a lot of meaning for this game. The question I ask myself is Caden Durham not the biggest? Because if Caden Durham goes for 100 plus yards rushing, well, that would mean that, hopefully that would mean that consistently you had a lot of big chunk plays. You had a lot of really good runs. Say Caden Durham has 15 rushes for 100 yards. Guys, I'd take that right now. I'd take it today. Because regardless if he had 14 carries for a yard and he had 14 yards, that would mean he busted one for 85 yards that probably went for 6. My biggest concern right now going into this game, based off of what I've seen at camp and what I somewhat expect from Clemson, is our offensive line versus their front seven. Here is a point I want to emphasize on. If we find out early that maybe it just was personnel for Clemson last year and LSU's able to get push, well, clearly you're going to feel a lot better about not only yourself, but the season. And Clemson fans will be like, well, shit, maybe it wasn't the defensive play caller. You tell me what scheme in reference to inside zone. What did you do differently? Well, we moved Peter Woods inside. You're going against stronger dudes in the inside. He's getting pushed around by tackles who are not stronger than these big burly-ass guards, historically speaking. I asked a simple question of this. Can LSU go into Clemson and run the football? Because if they run the ball for 3.5, 4 yards a carry, I feel very strongly you're going to win this game. Because you can play some ball control. Now, historically speaking too, unless you make massive personnel changes, you don't completely flip the script in the run game. Let me explain. The number one team in the country last year in defending the run, or one of the best teams, let me not say the best team, one of the best teams in the country in defending the run who made the biggest leap was the University of Ole Miss a season ago. The reason they made such a massive change, they went out and got better Jimmies and Joes. They went out and paid for a better defensive line. Austin Thomas, literally, while at Ole Miss, went out and paid for that defensive line. Maybe he did it again at LSU. I think there's going to be a little bit of a mixture. What my ultimate determination going into this game is, I fully believe that you're going to be in a situation where I think you're going to go in there and run the ball a little bit. I think you're going to run the ball a little bit. I do. When I watch Clemson from a season ago, I see guys in that interior, linebackers in that interior that got pushed around. I saw opponents like Texas who lost 3 offensive linemen, and they were running up Clemson's ass against backups. They were getting significant push. That's not scheme. It just is not scheme. But Tom Allen last year did one of the most spectacular things that we've seen. There's the flip side of that coin. Tom Allen literally went off at Penn State. He's a great I got chewed out in the comment section for this. He's a really freaking good DC. He had a top 5 unit last year. Yes, he is. I just think it's the biggest thing going into this. I do think that you're going to be able to get some on him. I think Caden Durham has looked a little bit more explosive, but man, if you continue to allow what you've done in camp and some of these guys just bursting through the line of scrimmage, you're going to get destroyed. I think you're going to be able to hold up. Another thing, this Clemson wide receiver room versus RDBs. I look at this at a situation where, guys, I actually do believe that maybe outside of Alabama, because they have Ryan Williams, this is going to be the best wide receiver core that you face, I think. Wesco, Moore, Williams, a 3-headed monster in an offense that wants to throw the football. I think Mansour Delane's addition to the secondary is paramount. I think adding guys like Cooley and Halsey are paramount. Can DJ Pickett give you anything? Because if he does, and even if he starts and he's able to perform, then, guys, you're clearly better on the boundary than you were a season ago. Does Ashton Stamps make that leap? But the second question mark that I have going into this game, I do not believe that you're going to stop Clemson. I don't believe that you're going to stop Cade Klubnik. Can you contain them? Can you, if they get big plays, can you get them down? Because they're going to get big plays against you. Guys, literally the best secondary in the country last year was Texas. Literally. From a passing yard games aspect, from a draft prospect, they had one of the best safeties. They had one of the best corners. They're returning a couple of them now that are preseason All-Americans, not just SEC guys. They legitimately, in the second half versus Texas, and even in the first half, took it to the best secondary in the country a season ago. When I look at them in that receiving core, I'm not asking you to stop them. You got to contain them. Because once they got in the red zone against teams that actually showed any form of physicality, they weren't able to get in the end zone. This might be the best wide receiver core. The defensive front, I still have my question marks on them because they still were 85th in the country in defensive or rushing yards allowed against them a season ago. 85th. Guys, you had 2 true freshmen that are out there at wide receiver for Clemson who went off against first-round draft picks. I think they're very good. I don't think you're gonna stop them. I do think you can contain them. That's the second question. Now, I said the 2 biggest things for Clemson that make me the most nervous was I do think they've got a lot of talent in their front 7, and I know that they have a lot of talent in their wide receiver room. But here's the question that I start asking for LSU going into this game. The question that I start asking is, when I look at Clemson a season ago and when I look at them now, do they have the ability to consistently run the football on what I think is going to be a damn good defensive front seven? LSU has struggled when they got against ranked opponents, their damn selves, at stopping the run. Clemson, I retweeted this last night. Clemson at the end of the year made a change at running back. They moved Adam Randall, 6'2", 235 pounds, from wide receiver to running back. And he's probably going to be one of their bell cows. He's probably going to be their guy. And in the video when Dabo was talking about and sharing last night, Adam Randall has been very explosive when he's gotten the ball in his hands as a kick returner, punt returner, or just really a kick returner, but kick returner and wide receiver. The best thing that he does that shows up on film and per his own head coach is once he gets the ball in his hand, Pauls, he can make some special plays. This entire fall camp, I haven't seen you have any success personally. Does that just mean that your offensive line's bad and you can't run the ball? Maybe. Does it mean that this front seven might be really freaking good? I question their physicality up front along their offensive line. Tristan Lee, who we all know about and what happened in his recruitment. Miller, is Parks going to be able to go at right guard? Because their offensive line, a lot of times last season, showed against real physical defensive fronts that they're not going to be able to hang for 4 quarters. Cade Klubnik was under a lot of pressure against a lot of really good teams. Now, 3 of those teams that they faced that were in the SEC had premier dudes. Do you? Because if you do, I think you can get after them. And I think you can make it a long night for Adam Randall. But this Adam Randall kid's a player, man. He can really move. He's really physical. I wonder if Clemson can get any form of their running game going. I think that it might be a plus for you. And if it is a plus for LSU and you make them one-dimensional, I know they got a lot of really good receivers. I know they're a really good team. But, guys, you can prepare for that and you can work with that. So I think that's where LSU might have an advantage. Last but not least, I got 2 things. Last but not least, Garrett Nussmeier and these receivers. I think that Clemson's secondary has been good in a lot of moments. I also think with the core that you have, with the speed that you have, you can get to them. Last year, Texas was able to spread the ball vertically, which might be your biggest strength. They were able to use it over the middle. They were able to use it out wide. Speed killed them. Well, I know that we have speed. We got a shitload of it. World-class speed at wide receiver. And I start thinking to myself, I know they have Terrell. I know they have some really good DBs. But the games that they lost a season ago and then basing it off in this one, I saw guys with elite speed last year like Matthew Golden and others separate themselves. You have guys that can do that and make those explosive plays for you. If Garrett has the time, which I pray to God he does, I think that your plus, man, you might be able to hit some explosives on them. So the 2 things that make me the most nervous versus the 2 things that make me that I'm like, man, I really think LSU can win here, starts making for a very even matchup. But then there comes the 5th thing that we got to address. Guys, Cade Klubnik can run. And you have not had the ability to show in big games that guys and quarterbacks that can be mobile, that you can remotely come close to stopping them. It has been a problem for you the last 2 years. However, I think that you will do so much better in that arena. I think that you upgraded at edge, and I think you got more athletic there. I do think that you're going to be better in your interior of your defensive line. I think that you got much better at safety, which, guys, A.J. Halsey in this run game might be the biggest key for you defensively. Look, man, it's gonna be a slugfest. Can you have a safety come down in that box and knock somebody's block off? Can you? Will he? I saw K. Klubnik last year run away against very athletic dudes. I saw him run away against Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons. I saw him run away from Jahdae Barron. Who was their safety? God bless it. Makuba. I've literally on film and in a game see him on a quarterback draw outrun those guys, literally hit the sidelines and go for 50 for a score. Guys like Perkins, guys like Halsey, all of them are going to be paramount. They're going to be. And here's the thing. I don't mean to put anybody down to lift LSU up. But if we're going to talk about the reality, like true reality of the situation, I think Harold Perkins is better than Major Burns. I think that A.J. Halsey is better than Sage Ryan. I think that Tamarcus Cooley is better than Jordan Gilbert. And you know how I know at least one of them? Jordan Gilbert got beat out and moved to star. Literally and figuratively, you have gotten better at that position. Can you translate all of this shit to the field? I think Deshaun Spears is better than them. I thought he was better than them last year. He certainly gave me a lot more effort and didn't run away from people. If you are going to win this game, and we'll give keys to victory a week from today, if you are going to win this game, you are effectively going to run the football and keep the ball away from them. You're going to have to play a little bit of ball control. I don't want to hear it, high fly this, high fly that. I legitimately want you to play some ball control. Run the ball. Keep the ball away from them. Don't let them come in here and hit explosive plays. Wear them the fuck down. You're going to have to stop this run game in K. Klubnik with his legs. It's not a doubt, not a question. The reason Texas almost got clipped in the playoff last year, K. Klubnik ran all over him. He ran all over him. But the main thing that I think that can get you over the hump here, if this offensive line can not only run the football but protect Garrett, and Garrett does not make bad decisions, guys, I think you're going to win it. I'm not as fearful. Here's what I'd say. I don't know. I don't think that they are better than that Florida State team that you faced in 23. I don't. That Florida State team, well, Patrick Payton included, guys, they had the rookie of the year defensively, and they had their rookie of the year defensively runner-up. Look at what they had at their entire defense. Guys, it was one of the best defenses in the country. Literally. I don't know if they're there. Maybe they are. But I'd still take Jared Verse over TJ Parker. I would. It's a little bit more even than I think people are giving it credit for. But LSU's got a lot of questions. They do. We'll see if they hit on them. All right. Any more super chats in here? No? Oh, but we do have a new member. Dr. John Sibley Butler says, or just became a member. Thank you, Doc. I greatly appreciate it. Yes, we will start publishing some members-only content. 10, 15, 20-minute videos. Maybe we'll get a little bit saucing in there. Hey, say things that maybe we're not saying out here on these people streets. We'll say on this YouTube channel. All right. I got to roll. I wanted to talk about Austin Thomas tonight. We'll do that on Saturday. So Saturday we'll be out to scrimmage. And we'll talk about Austin's we'll talk about Austin Thomas's thing. Press conference. Elijah Wood says, shout out to Blake from Lake Charles, but living in a ATX with these Rudy Poos, maybe Austin, Texas. Yeah. Rudy Poo galore. I didn't even ask you guys. I was so pissed off about the 9-game conference schedule. I didn't even ask people where they were at. Shame on me. Shame on me. All right. We'll see y'all on Saturday. So let me hold on. There's 1,200 of you in here. So I need the 1,200 of you to spread the word. This is what we're doing on Saturday. It's going to be a late night. We're going to go to the scrimmage. We're going to leave the scrimmage. I'm coming back to the studio, and we're live. It's what we're doing on Saturday. It's going to be a late night, so buckle up. We'll be here for it to break it all down for you. Until Saturday, we'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a great night. Peace.